Do you think that Harry and Meghan changed the royal family dramatically? Remember, Meghan was only here for 3 years. Do you think they've had a transformative impact on the royal family, or are they just carrying on as normal and, you know, stoically just getting on with the job?
No, I think Meghan and Harry have had a hugely negative impact on the royal family. I think the damage is everlasting and continues. And I think that the tragedy is that they tried terribly hard to help Meghan. After all, Charles escorted her into the wedding in St George's Chapel. The Queen assigned over half a dozen people to look after Meghan, try and help her get into the ways of the royal family. But they could never win. We know now in hindsight that Meghan never really intended to stay. Her guest list to her wedding showed her real ambition was to be a star in California. And Harry's friends were excluded from the guest list in the evening, from the dinner. So we know that the agenda was something which the royal family could never really get to grips with. And that's why their reaction, once the assault came through the Oprah Winfrey and through Netflix interviews, was lame and self-defeating. They should have been far more aggressive in their response to assert their own credibility.
It's really interesting. I remember, you know, reporting on it at the time and trying to get a sense of the atmosphere. And I think there was shock more than anything. I think there was almost a paralysis, particularly after Oprah. They didn't do anything until 24 hours later because it came out in America overnight. And they said, well, we're going to wait till it appears on, I think it was ITV on the Monday evening, and then we will react. There was like a collective kind of palace, deep intake of breath. It was like, what on earth are we dealing with here? But it's 3 years on now, or 4 years on now. I mean, do you think we've got over the Harry and Meghan show in the UK? Do you think we've moved on?
No, because after that was the publication of Spare, Harry's biography, which peddled even more lies and more trouble, and was, of course, again, a worldwide bestseller, because until then, the world was fascinated that two royals could be so disloyal and treacherous. They'd never had that in their lifetimes before. I think there's a waning interest in them now. People are beginning to see the truth, which I exposed 2 years ago in my book, Revenge. I mean, the truth about them is they are narcissistic and intent on self-glorification to profit from their notoriety. But at the time, no one wanted to believe it. That's always the problem with iconoclasts. They tell the truth, but no one actually wants at the time to believe it could be that bad.
The betrayal didn't begin after the wedding. It began at the wedding. According to explosive claims from royal biographer Tom Bower, Meghan Markle's betrayal of the royal family wasn't spontaneous. It was premeditated. He says clues from the very wedding watched by billions proved she was plotting her move from the start. Let's rewind to 2018, the royal wedding that captivated the world. Millions tuned in thinking they were witnessing a fairy tale. But Tom Bower says that behind the smile, Meghan already knew what she was going to do: use the royals for global fame, then walk away. He claims even the guest list and the people she surrounded herself with that day were early indicators. Hollywood elite PR connections, a narrative of independence. It wasn't a joining of families, it was a branding launch. Bower doesn't pull punches. He says Meghan's wedding speech, her demeanor, and even her behavior with staff suggested a woman who viewed royalty as a stepping stone, not a lifelong duty. He insists she was never interested in the quiet, traditional role expected of a royal duchess. She was laying the groundwork for something else: control, power, and global celebrity.
Well, people have heard what they've had to say. So the last 4 or 5 years, you know, through Spare, through Netflix, on Oprah, people have listened to what they have to say, and some, you know, a lot of people their popularity has gone down since they've told their story. We can talk a lot about the past, okay? We can talk a lot about the failures at the palace, or the problems or the mistakes that Harry and Meghan committed or deliberately inflicted on the royal family. Where do they go now? Where, in 4 or 5 years' time, if we're sitting down here talking about Harry and Meghan again, and Thomas Markle, and Harry and Meghan's relationship with the royal family, where are we going to be? What's the future for the Sussexes?
Well, the future of the Sussexes, I think, is pretty grim. I think that they're on a permanent decline. But they will, whenever they need money, whenever they need publicity to stoke their reputation, they'll drop another little bomb. I mean, we're still waiting, of course, for Meghan's own autobiography, which I'm sure she is penning. She is a good writer, and it'll be filled with vitriol and filled with lies. I mean, she will not tell the truth because she wants sensational headlines. That is the ultimate weapon she can deploy. But I just think that the royal family at the moment here in London is a bit sad. I mean, the illnesses, of course, have undermined their attraction, undermined their visibility. And that, of course, what grieves me most is, of course, that pleases Meghan and Harry. They are the epitome of good health. And there's Charles and Camilla and, of course, Kate, all unwell. And that, of course, is a great tragedy for us.
Well, they have been quiet. I mean, I don't remember Meghan saying anything for months and months and months, possibly last year, maybe. I mean, she's been incredibly quiet. Can we give them some kind of credit here? Have they reined in their attacks because they understand that the King and Princess of Wales are seriously unwell?
Think about it. Within months of joining the firm, she was plotting media deals, setting up Archewell, and giving private interviews that would later become ammunition. Tom Bower points to several symbolic details from the wedding, moments most viewers thought were sweet, but which he says were loaded with subtext. From the American preacher's sermon about independence and liberation, to Meghan's decision to walk partway down the aisle alone, these weren't coincidences. They were statements. Bower suggests she wanted the world to see her not as a duchess joining a centuries-old monarchy, but as a modern woman rewriting royal history on her terms. And of course what followed was the infamous Megxit. Within less than 2 years the dream had imploded. But Bower says, don't call it a breakdown, call it execution. Everything went according to her plan. From Oprah to Netflix to the memoir. He says Meghan always intended to weaponize her royal connection. It wasn't rebellion. It was strategy.
No, I don't think so at all. I think that she's allowed Harry to make the running. I mean, she is reserving herself for her autobiography. It's much better for her to be seen as the silent princess or duchess, the silent weapon in reserve. I mean, Harry, after all, has said some pretty unfortunate things when he came across and didn't see his father on his way to Nigeria. But Nigeria said it all. The visit to Nigeria, you didn't need words from Meghan to say what it was all about. It was about, we are the royal family in a Commonwealth country, the most important probably in Africa. And that said it all. It was a brilliant coup. Put the British royal family, our royal family, into a very, very difficult position, intentionally so. And that unfortunate occurrence is, again, the palace should never have agreed. They should have lobbied the Nigerians not to allow the Sussexes to come, because, of course, they were upstaged in a vitally important Commonwealth country.
So spinning it forward, are you concerned? Because I'm led to believe that they will do more of these trips. You know, this suited them because I was at the Invictus Games last September and the Nigerian Defence Minister turned up. And he sat at the front with Harry and Meghan. I think this is where it all started, their trip to Nigeria, because Meghan had said she was a certain percentage Nigerian heritage. What are the pitfalls that they could fall in? Or what's the problems they can cause to the royal family if they end up having more royal tours around the world?
Well, of course they will, as the royal family, because of Charles's and Kate's illnesses, are unable to travel as much as they would like, or travel at all. The presence of Meghan and Harry in Commonwealth countries will be absolutely damaging to the royal family. And that, of course, is a serious problem because, after all, Anne can't travel and, William rightly feels he should be with his own children and wife. So it's very difficult. The only question is whether the British Foreign Office and Number 10 can persuade Commonwealth countries not to host Meghan and Harry because it's damaging.
In what way is it damaging, Tom?
Well, it's damaging because they appear as royals. They appear as representatives of the British royal family, and they're
like a
not.
rival royal court. So
Exactly, and they're not. They are doing it for their own self-promotion, to profit from their association with the royal family, the same royal family who they deserted and have humiliated and have damaged. And that's the problem, that Meghan delights in this. But what's interesting is that she's really so unpopular. Despite her unpopularity in America now, and obviously in England, she still manages always to create, understandably, a furor when she travels. And that is her intention, because she loves the spotlight. Everything is geared to her self-promotion.
Well, the self-promotion was always going to be the problem. So when the late Queen signed off on the Megxit agreement, it was that they couldn't use the royal titles to make themselves money. They couldn't use HRH. They couldn't use Sussex Royal. That was the key, the key settlement part of the settlement that really stopped them from doing what they wanted to do. Do you feel, therefore, that they are pushing the boundaries and that maybe they are overstepping the line and maybe the king needs to step in again?
Well, I think there are two things there. First of all, the problem is that they betrayed. They actually, in the end, ignored the agreement that they settled on because allegedly they were going to California for privacy and to leave the royal family. And they've done the exact opposite. But I think part of the problem has been the weakness of the king. He should never have agreed for their children to get royal titles after the Queen's death. And he should have stripped them of their titles and actually made a declaration that they're no longer representatives or members of the royal family.
And poor Harry, Tom Bower paints him as the willing accomplice, manipulated perhaps but complicit. 5 years later, that wedding, once a global moment of hope, now feels like the beginning of a royal tragedy. Bower's words are damning. It wasn't a fairy tale, it was the first act of betrayal. And honestly, looking back, it's hard to disagree. Every smile, every camera flash, it all feels scripted in hindsight. Meghan wasn't marrying into the royal family. She was casting herself in the role of global victim hero. Tom Bower's claims are shocking, but when you connect the dots, they make disturbing sense. The question is, did the royal family ever stand a chance? Or was Meghan's betrayal written in the script from the very beginning? Speech Balloon, what do you think? Was Meghan's wedding a genuine royal love story, or a carefully staged launch of brand Meghan? Drop your thoughts below. Subscribe for more fearless royal analysis and truth behind the headlines.